Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, Cesar Espino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, Cesar Espino, and today I have a special guest. He is the leader in financial planning revolution to help to take back control of your money, your lifestyle, and your retirement plan. He believes ordinary financial planning is failing too many Americans. After losing almost everything during the Great Recession, he became obsessed with finding safe, predictable ways to save and create wealth, protected from the chaos and corruption of the conventional financial system. It is my pleasure to introduce to you John Ensley. Hey, John, how are you?
I am doing awesome, Caesar. Thanks for having me today. I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for being here. So, John, why don't we start by telling me a little bit about your upbringing and your background? How was that for you?
Sure. So I grew up in rural Southern Oregon, kind of a country boy living out in the woods next to the Applegate River. And so I spent, I tell people all the time that from my perspective, I had a pretty idyllic childhood. Stomping around the rivers and mountains in Southern Oregon and doing all that kind of thing when I was growing up. I think I was a young adult before I actually realized that, we didn't have much growing up. But it didn't dawn on me until I like got out in the world a little bit and saw other people and other experiences that we grew up pretty simply in Southern Oregon. But
Yeah.
again, I had a kind of an amazing country boy kind of life growing up.
Yeah. What was maybe perhaps one of your biggest memories as a kid that looking back now has helped you be who you are now?
Oh, you bet. So, I would say independence has always been a huge thing for me. I've always wanted to be that way. So I tell the story often about, when I was a kid, probably, maybe 12 years old. So my little brother would have been 9 or 10. In the summertime, we lived not on the Applegate River, but kind of close to it. It's a fairly small river in Southern Oregon. My dad was a truck driver, and he would bring home these big inner tubes, these big truck tire tubes. And as kids, my little brother and I would leave in the morning at 9, 10 o'clock, and we would roll these inner tubes down the driveway about a mile and a half down Williams Highway, right? A fairly significant highway across Williams Highway through a working gravel pit with trucks going everywhere and to get to the river. And we'd put them in the river and meet up with some friends there. And we'd spend all day long, right? Floating
Mhm.
down the river, doing what kids do, having mud fights or whatever. And then we'd go roll these inner tubes back up the highway, and home for dinner, in the evening or whatever. And of course, this was back before the days of cell phones or any of that. So all mom knew is that we were in the river, right?
Yeah.
No idea anything else that was going on. I think about that story a lot because it was in some ways, such a simple time in the world where my mom would probably be criticized today for allowing her two young children to go float around a river all day long. But at the same time, I think it really bred an independence as I grew up that it was perfectly okay to go out in the world and be responsible for myself. That was just normal. And I think it really impressed upon me as I got older and older to always be as independent as I possibly could,
Right.
and just experience the adventure in life.
No, that's good. So we grew up with this idea of when I grow up, I want to be firefighter, pilot, police officer. What was your dream?
So, as long as I can remember, I was always going to be some sort of soldier, sailor, pilot, something military oriented.
Hmm.
It changed over the years. Ultimately, after I got out of high school, I went in the army, so I actually, went that direction. But even when I was, young, I read the book Shogun when I was a preteen at some point, and so I wanted to be a naval navigator, right?
Yeah.
Like one of the characters in that book. So it was always something military, and I actually did end up going in the military.
Yeah. So that's good. Not a lot of people get to kind of fulfill that idea or that dream or when I grow up I want to be this or that or get close to that. And I do believe that while that's a dream and our journey or life can take us in different places, it also could be that the different challenges or obstacles that were put in front of us might have mitigate the decision. And I always tell people that we're just away from one decision, and the decisions and choices that we make today will determine the quality of life that we have tomorrow. And while sometimes we might make a decision that is not quite fit for what we're looking to get at the end, we do have the choice to pivot and make a new decision. Except again, that is the challenge, that we're afraid to make another decision because we failed the first one, right? And we don't pivot fast enough to do that.
Yeah, I think fear of change is a thing that holds us back, right? We're just that unknown of at least what we're doing, we know it's going to be stable, it's whatever the case may be, so we're afraid of that change. But I've found in my life that with change comes usually better things.
Right.
You just got to embrace it and go after life with all you got.
How do you embrace that though? That's because this I think it's true, right? And yet how do you embrace that? Because we're afraid of changing. We're so we're so comfortable being comfortable, and we don't like to be uncomfortable. We don't like to make different things, right? So how do you embrace something like that, whatever that might be in life?
So I think it comes more naturally for some people than others. I'm very adventure oriented, so it's never been super difficult for me to kind of change direction and just embrace that adventure. And some of those decisions work out well, and some of those
Yeah,
decisions don't.
yeah,
I always joke, you've got to love it all, right? The good, the bad, the indifferent.
yeah,
You just got to love it all. So I think that would be, maybe a piece of advice, right? Is just keep yourself open to the adventure, to accepting what may or may not come depending on those decisions. But whatever you do, just keep striving, keep moving forward, keep reaching for that better you.
yeah. No, definitely. So, at which point did you get involved? Was it right after the army that you said, I want to get into financials, financing, or that industry, or how did that come about for you?
No, so I got out of the army and went to work for a company that was a government contractor, and they dealt with the collection of defaulted student loans.
Hmm.
And so I was in the right place at the right time. Really, I heard about it from a friend of a friend. It was actually kind of funny. I jumped off a hay truck and blew out a knee, and happened to, because I blew out the knee, I happened to be at a friend's house and
Hmm.
ran into a friend of theirs who told me about this job opportunity. And I showed up at the guy's office with a big knee brace on and crutches,
Yeah.
and I think he found that kind of comical. But anyway, I bugged him until he hired me, so I ended up going to work for this company, and turns out was pretty good at that, so I did quite well there. And so I saw two things. One is the build up to the tech bubble boom in 2000. So I was working for this company, had stock options and a lot of things going on there, and it was super exciting. They were going to do an IPO, and we were all going to be wildly wealthy. And then, of course, the tech bubble burst, and the IPO never happened, and so I kind of saw that whole thing deflate. So that was a real lesson. And then so I left that company. I had a little bit of money in an employee stock ownership plan, and I decided I was going to develop this subdivision, small subdivision in South. I'd moved to Southwest Washington by then, and so I did that. I started that project, and we were going to build spec homes on each of these lots. And I was about halfway through building the first spec home when 2008 rolled around. And I made some bad decisions trying to save the project that contributed, but the economics also contributed when the real estate bubble burst and everything crashed. So I got wiped out basically again. And that was a wake-up call after the 2008 recession. Was a real wake-up call in that, okay, what don't I know? What's going on here? And that led me to go on what I call a journey of self-discovery. And I just began devouring everything I could read. A lot of it about finance and money, but also just about life and finding myself and who I wanted to be and the life I wanted to design and so forth. And so in the course of all of that study, I ran across a concept called bank on yourself that had to do with using properly structured life insurance
Infinite banking.
contracts, infinite banking, bank on
Yep.
yourself. Yep.
Yep.
Similar concept.
Yep.
And I'd never heard anything like that before. In fact, I hated the idea of life insurance. Who
Right.
wants to be worth more dead
Which
than
everybody
alive?
does, which I don't understand to this
Yeah,
day. Yeah.
exactly. I had that bad attitude, right? That was me back then.
Yeah.
And then I heard about this concept where it could, life insurance could be something more than just a death benefit. It could be this living thing that you could
Right.
use to build this life. And I got super passionate about it. I set up my own policies and started using it, and realized like I've been to many financial advisors and nobody had ever told me anything similar to this. And so I was kind of ready for a career change at that point. So this would have been like 2010 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did the studying and got my insurance licensing in Washington State, and then did an infinite banking agent training out in New York City, and a bank on yourself agent training, and launched my financial practice in 2012
Yeah.
as a result of that passion I had around this concept.
No, that's huge. And one of the things that I see here is, again, that you did, and I think it might have been through this journey of yours, right? Is take action now, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
best time to do that, it was 20 years ago or today, right? So tell me
Yes.
a bit more about that, because I do believe that, again, part of it is we go through life, and even just that, the best time that you can plant a tree was 20 years ago or today, right? We don't really, sometimes we don't see the fact that 20 years go by so fast, right?
Oh,
Or
in a
at a blink of an
flash.
eye. It's like, man, like I look at my daughter, and she's already grown, and I'm thinking, I remember when she was just born. Except, again, it
Mm-hmm.
goes by so fast. And a lot of it is exactly that. People have the idea of even a life insurance, right? um Being able to talk to somebody about life insurance, or things like that. It's funny how you can probably relate to this. It's funny how people definitely insure their iPhone or their phones or their cars, and to make sure they can replace that whatever $1,000 phone, yet they don't insure their lives, right? And part of
Mm-hmm.
it is because people say, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll do it next week, or next month, or sometime in the future, right? And then that future never comes, because then tomorrow comes like, oh yeah, you know what? No, let me do it next week. I got caught up right now.
Yes.
Again, taking action now, and recognizing that right now is the best time. Tell me more about that, because I know that you've built your life around that, and obviously talking about even life insurance, and utilizing that as a vehicle to have not just a living benefit, having sorry, a death benefit. You have a living benefit, and more to it, right? Tell me more about that.
Absolutely happy to. So, taking action, I think is it's just the key. You have to always be willing to take action. When I started this practice, I was leaving a very successful sales career that I could have stayed in for the rest of my days, but I had zero passion for it.
Mm.
I was very good at the job, but I could care less about what I was selling or what I was doing. It was just a job, and paid well and had great benefits and blah blah blah. It was all good, but yet I was less than happy because I was getting up and going to work and doing every day what needed to be done, but I had no passion around it. And so when I discovered this concept and I got so passionate about it, I'm like, you know what? I could every day just help people with this, and I would love that. And I could be doing work I'm passionate about. And so it was that motivation that caused me to take action. It was that hope, right? Is what it was. to go
Mm.
from kind of an existence mentality to a hopeful, passionate, actually helping people kind of mentality that said, yeah, I got to do this. But well, guess what? I fell flat on my face.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. My first year doing this, I had a huge misconceptions and I jumped into being, self-employed and being an entrepreneur and doing all these things. And I just, I fell flat on my face. I had to go back to a job for a little while and
Yeah.
then, a couple of years and then I got going again. So, it's certainly once I made the decision to take action, it wasn't all ducks and bunnies at that point. So there was a learning curve, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It was absolutely the best decision, and it made it easier for me to take action after having that experience.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. Because once you live through, okay, this didn't work out the way I thought, but guess what? It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay if it didn't work out the way I thought. So now taking action is easier because I'm not so afraid of 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 what failure might look like.
Yeah, and part of that too is I think what I'm hearing too is that you're utilizing that failure as a, I always say failure is an educational experience. You're learning from that,
For
and when you
sure.
know that for us to be entrepreneurs, we know we're gonna have, if you want to call them failures, I call them lessons now. I don't call them failures. Except again, we know we're gonna have lessons and or failures through our journey. Except again, that's what's gonna help you become better and greater at what you're doing because you're learning. It's a learning curve. Whereas a lot of times at a job, I I left a very good paying job in my 9 to 5. One, if you fell, you're probably being reprimanded for that. It was not something good, right? It was not perceived as something
Hmm.
good. And so therefore he's like, no, I want to do the best I can. Yet you were so focused on not failing that you were not focused on doing the right thing or doing the best thing sometimes. You get me?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
so
Totally
that
agree.
definitely that. So you found this passion. Tell me a bit more about how you're able to help people that are not educated, because you're right. The financial aspect or the 401ks or all the different things that might be good tools may not be good tools after all when it comes down
Hmm.
to the baseline of what really the Americans need right now to have something not only when they die, also as they're living, that living benefit, right?
Yeah, for sure. So I think with life insurance, it's such a hard thing for people to get their minds around because it's intangible, right? None of us likes to think about our mortality or the fact that, it's all going to end at some point, right? There's
Yep.
only one way off this ride.
Right.
And so we don't like to think about that. We avoid it. And so it's easy when you think about using life insurance or having death benefit there to protect your family and your assets and things like that, that it's easy to just kind of push it to the back of your mind because we don't want to think about it anyway. Um, so that's part of it. Is one of the things I try to do with clients is help them think about their mortality, to think about what do you want to happen if, right? God forbid, let's hope it doesn't, but if, right? What would you want to happen in that point for your family, for your business, for, so some of these things, just to get that thought process started. Um, and then in terms of, so that's the death benefit side of life insurance, which is super important. But
Let
what
me
I
ask you,
discovered,
before you go to that one, let me ask you this though. How do you overcome that? Because again, as you mentioned, people don't, they don't want to talk about it. They don't even want to think of
mhm.
that, right? And so at what point, or is there a group age that is more aligned with that? Do you wait for somebody that's they're in their 30s, 40s before you speak to them about it, or do you start talking to somebody at the age of 18, 19, 20? Right? Like, how do you approach that? Because again, I believe it's important, yet nobody wants to talk about it. So when is the right time to talk about that? And then as you get them to understand that and they start thinking about it, now you can start talking about the other stuff that you were going to mention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think any age, right? Every age, we have to always maintain a awareness. We have to be awake and maintain an awareness that this earth just keeps turning. The sun's going to rise and set and rise and set and rise and set every day.
Yeah.
And it clicks away faster than you realize, right? I'll do a little exercise with people sometimes where you can go online and find a calculator and you can calculate the days, hours, minutes, of a period of time, right? So in a 90-year lifespan, I have 780 some thousand hours, right? I'm going to be 55 this year, which blows my mind, right?
You're
It
good.
seems like
Yeah.
I was in the army when I was 20 years old just the other
Right.
day. And but you can, I've used, about 58% of my time, right?
Mhm.
That's a sobering thought when you
Yeah.
think about it that way. But that's important to think about it that way. There's no time to waste, right? That it also kind of ties back to taking action, right?
Yeah.
There's no time to waste. Every moment is precious.
Yeah.
Um, so I think you can help people start thinking about it in those terms. And a little humor helps as well when you think about such a
Yeah.
could be a dark thing, right? Is like,
Yeah.
okay, you know there's going to come an end, right?
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You know that we don't live forever.
Yeah.
Um, and so if you can kind of lighten the mood a little bit with a little humor, and then tie that in with, hey, this is how many hours you got
Yeah.
in a lifetime, or how many days you've got. What are you going to do with them? And what do
Yeah.
you want to happen with them when they expire?
Yeah.
Because
So that,
you can't make it, you can't steal it, you can't manufacture it, right? It is what it is. You can get less, but you probably can't get more.
right, exactly. Right, right, right. Yeah. So that's the obviously you got people to understand the concept. That's the death benefit of the insurance, and talk about
Mhm.
this additional aspect that really a lot of people are blind by it. They don't even know about it.
Exactly. So now we're talking about the idea behind bank on yourself or infinite banking is building cash values within these policies that we can use now, right? And this comes directly back to a platform. This is the way I describe it: is a whole life insurance policy isn't an investment,
Mm,
right? A whole life insurance policy it's a contract between you and a life insurance company. It establishes a death benefit, and the nature of a whole life policy is it accumulates cash value. And it's what we can do with those cash values that becomes a platform for investing. So we can borrow from these cash values, or more correctly, against these cash values, to then make investments that produce cash flow, or that create this lifestyle that you want to create, whatever the case may be. I use my policies for all kinds of things. I've started businesses with them. I've built real estate projects with them, et cetera, et cetera. So the insurance policy itself is really a container for cash. It's a
mm,
place where I hold cash that I can then use as a platform to go out and make investments
yeah,
that in my case, I'm always trying to produce cash flow.
yeah. And are you able to use that uh, or borrow against or get money against the policy to do really just about anything? Whether it's does have to be uh, businesses, or hey, I want to put my kid through college, or maybe I want to give my kid a European trip that's going to cost me $10,000. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can really use it for anything you want to. We talk about safety, control, and passive income, right? These are the three concepts we
Mm,
focus on. And this is the control piece, right? You're in complete control as the policy owner. You have the access to borrow against the value of your policy. The insurance company is really using your policy as collateral, and you're
mhm.
borrowing money from the insurance company. You're basically an investment for them. We pay them a little bit of interest for that loan, but much less than we would pay through any conventional lender.
Yeah,
And then we really can use that money for anything we want. So we
got
we
it.
can use it for investments. We can use it for major purchases. We could use it for that $10,000 European trip for the college grad, or
Yeah,
really anything we want. The only caveat I always throw out is we have to be what I call being an honest banker, right? We have to pay our loans back, and we
yeah,
have to be prudent about it and be as responsible with that loan as we would be a loan from any other type of lending institution that we borrowed from, maybe even more so because it's
yeah.
ours.
It's our money. Got you. And then those that in terms of being able to do that type of policy or investment for yourself, um how does it work when it comes down to like is it backed by the stock market? So if the stock market crashes, goes below zero, right, or does it always kind of like?
No, so yeah, it's not tied to the stock market at all. So the policy loan terms are established by the insurance company. So the insurance company says, You have, we'll just use round numbers. You have $100,000 in this life insurance policy. We will loan you 90,000 of it at any given point. And this is the interest rate that we're going to charge you. And it's a simple interest rate that we're only going to apply once a year. And that's important to how the calculations work. And basically, other than that, you can pay it back however you want, however long you want, in any amount you want. You can start payments, stop payments, change the amount. You're in complete control over what you do with that. Now, the great thing about that is, let's say we borrowed that 90,000 and we put a down payment, or we bought a rental property with that 90,000, and then we take the rents coming from that property and we pay that loan back. The great thing is the title to that rental property, right, is not encumbered by that loan.
Okay.
The only thing collateralized is the policy itself. So if we found a property that we could pay 90,000 cash for, we would hold title free and clear to that property like we paid cash for it.
Nice.
Right. And then we pay our loan back to our policy, because we're going to be honest bankers. So we're going to pay our loan back to our policy like we would a bank, but the bank never owns our property. Right. We own it. So that's a real key thing, like buying vehicles or anything like that. You're going to hold the title to that asset, even though you're financing it in effect, but you're doing it without a bank. You're doing it through your insurance policy.
Well, that's huge. That's definitely huge. So I'm sure some people that are listening to us might have this question: what if I, in that scenario, $100,000 policy, I take $90,000 to buy whatever house, right? And within, I don't know, a week or two, something happens to me and I die, right? So I didn't get a chance to pay back that policy. I passed. What happens in that case? Do the death benefit becomes only the 10,000, the difference of that?
No, so your death benefit is going to be, there's always leverage with death benefit. So because we have $100,000 policy doesn't mean we have $100,000 death benefit. So we could have 100,000 cash value in a policy and $400,000 in death benefit, right? Every policy is going to be a little different. So that's just an example. So we die, we've borrowed the 90,000, $400,000 death benefit. The insurance company is going to offset the 90 and the interest that might be due on that 90 out of that 400. And so your family gets 300 and some.
Got it.
After the loan's paid. So essentially, insurance company is using the death benefit in the policy as collateral, and the cash value in the policy as the limit of what you can borrow.
Got it. Yeah. Well, that's huge. So in terms of that, are you only licensed in Washington State, or are you licensed in other states?
Yeah, I can do insurance business in any state in the U.S. Most of my clients are sort of Western states, but I have clients in Texas, I have clients in New Jersey, so pretty much any state I can operate in.
Got it. Okay, cool. So if people wanted to find out more about this, the policies, how they can create something, where can they contact you?
So the best way to get in touch with me is at a landing page that I have called jumponwithjohn.com. Jumponwithjohn.com. And you can schedule a 30-minute strategy session right in my calendar. That's what I always recommend, is have a conversation with someone like me. I'd be happy to be that person. And because this, I always kind of joke a little bit, this can work for anyone, but it's not necessarily for everyone. And so you don't want to, you want to be careful that you don't get kind of a salesy insurance agent who's trying to force this down your throat or move you too fast. And that's, I think, one of my things in my practice, been doing this almost 12 years now, is I don't push this on people. I consider myself an educator, not really a salesperson. So I share everything I've got about how this works and how it might fit. But until somebody raises their hand and says, yeah, this looks good to me, I'm not going to push it on them. So I'm happy to have a conversation just to see if it's the right fit, and jumponwithjohn.com is going to be the easiest way to do that.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of material that talks about that concept and things like that. Is there a book or something that you can recommend for people to pick up and start reading, so they can kind of educate themselves on this? Because again, there's not a whole lot of education on this, right? In finance.
Well, there's a lot on YouTube, but be careful with that.
Right.
So I always recommend The Bank on Yourself Revolution by Pamela Yellen. That's the number one recommendation. That book does a great job of explaining it from a 10,000-foot view. And then someone like me can help you with the more detailed view. Becoming Your Own Banker by Nelson Nash was the original that he wrote back in the late 80s. And that's still available out there as well. So those two, I think, would probably form the best primer on the concept. Yep, that one right there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So between those two, I think that would be a great primer on the concept. And then again, though, I can't overstate that the agent you end up working with is probably the most important piece, that they've got your best interests in mind and that they know how to structure the policies.
Right, definitely. So I have a couple of more questions for you. In terms of even just learning this and doing that, I always believe that people, when they find a niche like yourself, and you say, okay, I found something that I really enjoy, I have this purpose or something that I really want to impact people, because obviously you're not only are you having fun with it, you're essentially impacting many people's lives by educating them and helping them have a better leverage on their money now, through their living years and through their death benefit, right? Except, again, I think a lot of that comes down to your way of thinking and your mindset and the habits and the structure and discipline that you've built. So what kind of disciplines and or habits do you have on a day-to-day basis to get you up and running?
Great question. So I think nowadays you have to embrace technology, right? I do a lot of traveling. My other business is a sailing school. I teach people to sail, so I'm always on the road. Without technology, there's absolutely no way I could do what I do. So embracing technology is huge, and that's everything from email to all of the virtual technology with cameras and microphones and so forth. But it also comes down to I used to, in days gone by, I'd use paper lists a lot, right? Daily, weekly, just tasks that need to be done. I've moved all of that to electronic now. Trello is one I really love for just task lists and keeping my mind and keeping the clutter out and staying focused on what's important. And I've always been a big list guy that way, but I think the technology is just, you gotta embrace technology.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. My last question for you is, for the people that are watching us or listening to us that might be going through some challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one thing you can say to them that they can start overcoming that challenge?
So I'm going to say this, and I say it to people quite often, and it's a little tongue in cheek. But I literally say this to myself all the time when I start getting overwhelmed. It's all just a hologram, right? We can redesign that hologram any way we want it, right? We have our own holodeck. It's our life, and we can create any way we want to create it. And sometimes we take ourselves way too seriously, right? Yeah. We're operating in a reality that we actually perceive, just a tiny fraction of. So we really got to give ourselves a break and recognize that we can just create and recreate at will.
Yeah.
And back up, take a breath, and recreate it.
I love that. Awesome. Well, definitely, I really appreciate you being here, John. Thank you for all the insight. Anything else you might want to say before I let you go?
No, let's just focus on kind of where we started. Take action, right? Take action, do something. Figure out what it is and do it.
I love it.
Thanks for having me, Caesar. It's been a great time.
Yeah. Thank you, John. And for the rest of you guys, please make sure that you share this podcast. Somebody definitely needs to hear this message. And I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cesar Espino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.cesarrespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.